I had been planning this trip for over a year. It had been over a decade since my last week or so long motorcycle trip, and almost 2 decades since I had been around the Gaspésie area of Quebec. Needless to say, I was excited. That excitement was extinguished on the morning I was leaving, as it had rained pretty hard overnight, and it continued to rain as I was getting ready. No motorcyclists will tell you that they love riding in the rain, so I was continuously checking various weather apps while working up the ambition to get going. The afternoon looked like it would be okay where I was going, and I had a lot of distance to cover, so I headed out, although it was about an hour later than I had originally planned. It rained pretty hard at times, but the first leg of my day was all pavement and the rain tapered off just as I arrived at my first destination. So overall, it was better than I had expected. Located just off Route 10 between Moncton and Fredericton are the remnants of a Second World War internment camp. All that remains today is the base of the water tower at the entrance of an interpretive trail, along with a few small concrete structures throughout the site. The trail is well marked and only takes a few minutes to walk through. There are plenty of signs explaining where buildings used to stand and some of the history of the site. After my short hike, it was time to hit the road again. The sun came out and I was able to remove my rain gear in Fredericton before finally hitting the Irving logging road network just to the west. Network of roads is great for ADV bikes, as they are not very technical and they are well maintained. But bring a map, GPS, or a good sense of direction, because it can become a hamster maze rather quickly. Before too long, I arrived at my second destination of the day with what I can only assume is government-funded signage. A short hike through a bog brought me to the remains of a TBM-3 Avenger, which crashed in 1958 while spraying the forest for budworm. The plane has remained relatively untouched ever since, and there is a memorial on site to the pilot who unfortunately lost his life in the accident. If you do come here, please be respectful and do not remove any of the wreckage. After what was honestly a rather somber experience and spending too much time listening to the absolute silence of being so far into the middle of nowhere, it was time to continue heading north. have no idea where this guy on the bike came from or where he was going, but we were so far into the middle of nowhere that seeing him was a bit of a shock. Seriously, we were so far into the woods that you'd have to come out closer to the city to go hunting. And it wasn't long before I came across this. The GPS sent me down here. I think that bridge has been in a state of disrepair for a little while. So after that overwhelming statement of optimism, I had to turn around and backtrack to find a different way out of the hamster maze. I wanted to ask that guy on the bike for directions, but I never saw him again. Rumor has it he's still in there somewhere, just pedaling on. I eventually found my bearings on a paved road and was able to continue to my next planned stop heading north. In Boys Town, there is a static display of the same type of aircraft at the crash site I had just visited. These planes were originally torpedo bombers used in the Second World War, but were converted into water bombers once they were deemed obsolete for military purposes. If you look closely, you can see where the gun turret behind the cockpit of the plane was removed and covered with sheets of aluminum. You can also see the old torpedo bay, which was converted to hold water to drop on forest fires. By this point the day was getting long, and I needed to push on to Mount Carleton Provincial Park to get to my campsite for the night. My original plan was to follow some snowmobile tracks through the Christmas Mountains and around Serpentine Lodge. But the combination of starting an hour late due to the rain and backtracking for over an hour when my planned route proved impassable meant that I just didn't have time. So I followed some dirt roads from Boys Town to Route 108 and then blasted through the paved main roads from there. This leg of the day wasn't completely uneventful though, as someone with a keen eye may notice something missing from the last frame of this video. But I'll get into that in the next episode. In total, I covered 649 kilometers, of which roughly 35% were dirt and trails.